morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the sunrise safari, when the sun eventually decides to rise. Now, I have really exciting news. I can hear lions calling, and I can hear lions calling that sound like they might be somewhere on the property. I was racing there before I encountered a slight roadblock. The giraffe is up and about in this early morning. Just goes to show you never know what to expect as you come around the corner on a live safari. And we are coming to you live from Djuma and Arathusa Game Reserves in the Sabi Sands. And we're also interactive, so send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@wildearth.tv. Hello, girl. We'll take this opportunity to sit and listen, see if those lions call again for us. Must be the Birmingham boys, given the direction that it came from, around Chitwa. Hopefully they decide to come and join us. For those of you who don't know, my name is Jamie, and I have Tebs on camera with me this morning. Steph will be out and about on bushwalk as it gets a little bit lighter, and he will have VM, the wildebeest, wandering around after him on camera. Oh no, sorry, it will be VM. It will be VM. We also have Jerry and Kirsty in FC, and what an exciting moment it is. Now, apparently, I might be wrong about the weather, and the clouds could in fact be carrying rain. What I've done to make it even more likely is not put the rain covers on. So I figured Murphy's Law, if I put the rain covers on, it won't rain. So if at any point we have to stop and frantically cover up, it will be because we are rejoicing at the presence of rain. In theory, there is a 92% chance of rain at some point this morning. That's the theory. Dare we hope? I certainly hope so. I'll have to, if it does rain while we are live, I'll have to make good on my promise to roll around on the ground in it. Sorry guys, I'm taking my earpiece out. Steph's just been trying to talk to me. Copy that, thanks Steph. Did it sound like it was around Leadwood Road?
Affirmative, somewhere around there.
Copy that, thank you. Sorry guys, I'm just talking to Steph, and I'm talking to Steph on open comms so that I can listen without my earpiece in. Hey, I know that male. We've spoken about him before. Still following females. Okay, roadblock's gone. Giraffe, you are lovely. We shall have to return to you at some point, but at the moment, we're on a mission. Oh, the sky's gone all pink. Pink and beautiful. What an exciting way to start the morning. Sorry, Giraffe. Gotta go. Wow. The colors are amazing. Everything is very, very pink. Alright, let's go find these lions. Let's do a little bit of a Ferrari safari to get to where they're calling from. Come on, lions. It's about time you made your way back onto the live safaris. You've had enough time off air. It's time to be famous again. Good morning, elephant. Hello, Elise. Oh my goodness. Oh boy. Our elephant bull, and with great apologies to him, not that he isn't beautiful, I'm going to carry on for now. He's moving back into Djuma, so we can always come back to have a look at him in a moment. And he's a huge gentleman that's been leaving giant tracks outside DRC. Alright, now on the subject of lions, I've said that I think this is the Birmingham boys making their way onto Djuma once again. And Lewis, you want an update on the, specifically Junior. The information I'm going to give you comes hand from a day and a half ago. Lewis, they called in the Nkuhumas on Buffels Hook. They then moved east into Kruger National Park. Now, the information comes from people who are not necessarily as familiar with the animals as we are. So I can't vouch for it, but I think it's probably accurate. It makes the most sense. And with that pride of lions that was spotted moving into Kruger was one young male. So I suspect Junior is still with the Nkuhumas, which is nice to know. At least have that update on him. Oh, there's another giraffe. They're all coming out to play this morning. Sleeping there. Hello, boy. Sorry, boy. We'll get back to you. You can also be on TV. Just not right now. Now, let's play Where Did the Lion Roar Come From? Communicating with Steph, who is waiting for it to get a little bit lighter so that he can go out wandering. He's also helping me listen. Just because sometimes over the noise of the engine, it's a little bit more tricky to not necessarily hear, but to get a sense of direction. Unless you are right on top of them. Yay! So we've made de-stressing's morning. That you were saying it's the start you need, but the prospect of lions wandering about, I'm just concentrating on tracks. I don't want to miss something wandering. Luckily, I've got Tebs on the back who has eagle eyes that are particularly well suited for cat spotting, as many of our regular viewers know. He has a certain talent when it comes to the big cats. There's Miana running across the road. They got a fright at something. Not alarm calling. Oh, it's been a long time since I've personally seen a lion. I'm starting to forget what they look like. I've just been a little bit unlucky with them recently. Go to the top of this rise and then have a look-see and a stop and a listen. Come on, lions. Come on, Birmingham boys. Into the strange line. This is where the whole drama with the Matimba males and the Birmingham males started. This particular patch of road. This is initially where the line in the sand was metaphorically drawn. All those months ago, it was around July, I think, the Birmingham boys came rushing down, shouting and roaring. There was a bit of backwards and forwards between them and the Matimba males, who used to, for new viewers, Matimba males used to be the coalition in charge of this particular area, so this was their territory. Two huge older males, big mature boys, Hairy Belly and the Ginger male were the southern Matimbas. They were in control of not only this area, but the Nkuhuma Pride, as well as the Styx Pride. And as far as I know, the Talamati Pride as well. The Birmingham boys changed all of that. They reached the age of sort of between 4 and 5, where they decided they were brave enough to come dashing onto our property. And in quite an epic battle of noise, they chased the Matimbas away. There was never, as far as we know, there was never physical contact between the Matimba males and the Birmingham boys, to the best of our knowledge. The Matimba males gave up, ran south towards Londolozi, where they promptly established themselves there and terrorized the Solana Pride in turn, and the Birmingham boys had won the property of Juma as well as Torchwood, Chitwa, Cheetah Plains, all around where we are at the moment. And as soon as that happened, they went on a lion rampage, which is typical what happens. That's what happens with takeovers, and particularly with the young males. They were incredibly aggressive. They killed an Nkuhuma lioness, they killed one of the sub-adults, and then very sadly killed the Styx cubs that were only a couple of months old. Where are these things? There's no tracks here. The nice thing about them is that it's pretty hard to miss their tracks. They're huge. I'm just going to sit here on this corner for a moment. Just listen. Welcome to the southeastern corner of Juma, right on the divide. When I originally heard them calling, it was a little bit further off to the east. That was this morning when I woke up. Oh, look at those colors. I'm just taking my earpiece out for a moment so I can listen. Why is it so quiet? Come on, boys. You gotta give me a bit of a hint. You gotta give me a clue. Gotta give me a clue as to where you are. Met with silence. Okie dokie. They didn't cross the southern boundary. Let's go see if they've crossed the eastern boundary. Or if they're sitting on the eastern boundary somewhere. Taking my earpiece out. Steph just called me on the radio to say they're vocalizing. I can't hear anything. Am I going crazy? Oh, Steph, I don't know if I missed it. I can't hear anything from Gari Main, Cheetah Cutline. Does it sound as though they're further north than that position, or possibly further west? Copy that, thank you. So Steph's hearing calls from that side. I'm not hearing them from here, so they must be further west. Anna Marie, yep. The sky has taken on a beautiful hue. Everything has come out in a sort of a pink peachy light, as you described it. Does look as though the clouds are burning away though, or maybe not coming from the west. Where are these lions? Steph says it sounded more like it was towards Twin Dams. So let's head back towards there. we can't pick anything up around there, any kind of tracks, anything crossing on that side. Steph, I'm fairly certain that the sound isn't coming from the Salati males and the Talamatis in Buffelshoek, which is where they've set up shop at the moment. That being said, that doesn't mean that the Salatis are not calling, and in fact they might be, and the Birmingham boys are calling in response to that. It's entirely possible that the Salatis are calling, but the sounds we're hearing come from the south. Now, Steph has probably one of the most extraordinary senses of Stefan Winterboers, who I'm talking about now, before we have confusion. Steph has one of the best senses of direction that I've ever known. So if he's telling me that the calls are coming from somewhere around Twin Dams, that's more towards the south and towards the west. From Marianne. Of course, we said the lions might be calling in response to other lions, and Marianne would like to know whether anyone's ever used a recording device, a playback device, to figure out where lions are. And Marianne, yes and no. It is used very commonly in research as a way of investigating the way in which the dynamics of an area work. But you have got to be incredibly careful about how you do it and what kind of ethical implications it has. So what we could do now is play the sound of one male roaring, and the Birmingham boys would actually not just reveal where they are, they'd probably come running to us. That's okay. That's the sort of, that's going to have a fairly a fairly negligible impact on their lives. If we were to play, say, the calls of 5 lions in Buffelshoek, that would have a very different impact, especially given that one of the Salati males is injured and might actually cause them to run away and abandon an area for a while before they realize that there is no threat. So you've got to be careful of the way in which you do that, and generally it's a technique that's only used in research purposes. You never know the impact that that's going to have on an area. It might also, let's say the Nkuhumas were in this area with Junior, and we played the sound of lions roaring, and bear in mind they can actually distinguish between the different voices of the different coalitions. So now if we play the sound of strangers, they are going to run. They're going to run as far as possible because they're going to be nervous of the idea of strange males entering their area. So that's the sort of thing I'm talking about when I say there are ethical implications to using call-outs. Sorry guys, earpiece out. Can you hear anything, Tibbs? I can't hear anything. Where is this lion hiding? thought. And the other option in terms of call out, sorry, to finish up with that question, is you can also use a different technique, and that's to play distress calls. So the sound that something dying or in distress. Usually buffalo is the one that's commonly used. Sometimes warthog, because they make a very distinctive squealing sound. But again, with that, bear in mind that you could attract all of the lions in the area and bring them into conflict with each other. So there's lots of different call-out techniques. But you have to be very, very careful as to how you do it and the ethical implications of what it is you're doing and why you are doing it. So for us to use it simply to find lions or to bring them to us is obviously not something that we're going to do. Phelps, you wanted to know what the blue thing is on the front of our vehicle. I'm going to stop for a moment because, Roy, that also gives me an opportunity to listen. Where is this line calling from? And so that Tebs can show you exactly what it is that you're looking at. Roy, that is essentially a ball of GoPros, and it is a virtual reality rig. Something that we're busy experimenting with to create a 360 degree is not actually the right term. It's almost like an immersive experience, so that with specialized technology, you stitch the videos of all of those GoPros together and you synchronize them by using a nice loud clap whenever you record with them. So if you see us all of a sudden start to do this, it's because we're providing a point at which to synchronize the videos. And then they stitch them together in a way that, as you know, the last thing I stitched was a button back onto my shirt, but apparently that is the terminology that is used. Technology that goes straight over my head. And you then get, if you get the specialized programs or if you get special Google glasses, you can look around as you're driving along. It's the most incredible thing. Brian's been showing me some of the stuff he's put together on his phone, so that when you move it around, you can look as you drive or as you're in a sighting. It is mind-blowing, the way in which technology is moving forward. Oh man, where is this lion? The level that technology has reached astounds me. I still struggle to type on my phone. But yes, that is something that we're experimenting with. We're trying to get some nice footage on it. Oh, that I think was a phantom drop of rain. Come on, lion. Where are you hiding? Why can't I hear you? Brian, Steph is close towards DRC, but Steph is hearing them somewhere in this vicinity. Now, either I've become suddenly deaf overnight, or I keep missing the beginning of the calls that I can't hear over the engine. But what Steph is telling me, rather than me going to him to listen to where the sounds are coming from, he's trying to tell me specifically where the sounds are coming from, so that I can follow up straight away there. What I'm doing at the same time is looking for evidence and tracks that he's wandered through here. I tell you something, there are lots and lots of elephants on Juba. There's tracks everywhere. At the moment, No lion tracks. Where's this gentleman? And I think what keeps happening is Steph grabs his radio to tell me that the lion's calling, and then I switch off my engine, and in the time it takes me to do that, the lion goes quiet again. And he might not be vocalizing with a full roar. He might be doing a contact call, so a very low, so not the full-on experience. He might even be looking for his brothers, because as far as I know, one of the Birmingham boys was quite far away from the others as of yesterday. He was close to Mala Mala. It was the Hoff, for those of you most familiar with the IDs of the different lions. So that could be him looking to reunite with his buddies, who were quite a lot further, and that they must have been the ones I heard calling from around Chitwa, which makes me wonder which direction he's going to choose to go in. I have to find his tracks. I have to find where exactly it was that he walked across one of our boundaries in order to figure out where he's gone. I don't think I've become suddenly deaf overnight. I've got another second phantom drop of rain. It might have been less phantom, more real. I'll keep looking at my bonnet to see if they start to land there. Interesting information. Thank you, Bill. Bill's watching the Arathusa Dam camera last night and saw a big herd of buffalo come through. And you were wondering whether the lions could have been following them. Yes, that is entirely possible. I will check in and double check the tracks. But first I want to see if I can spot where this lion's tracks have gone. But I'll keep an eye out for buffalo tracks as well. Thank you, Bill. That's hugely helpful, actually. Sorry, girl. Morning. Have you seen the lion? If you see a lion, will you tell me? No? Giraffes are very good at keeping secrets. Kudu everywhere. No alarm calls coming from this direction. Okie dokie, I'm going to concentrate very hard on finding this lion for you. In the meantime, I'm going to send you over to Steph so that he can say good morning.
Good morning from the Sunrise Bushwalk, and it's myself, Steph Winterboer, and VM on camera. And yesterday, while we were busy with the elephant close here to Vuyatela, while I was busy following the elephant, we were lucky enough to spot a violet-backed starling's nest. And just in the dead tree stump behind me, right there, is this violet-backed starling's nest. And when we got here this morning, the male, the bird that is busy feeding the female that's sitting on the eggs inside, oh, not on the eggs, the chicks inside there, was giving some vocalizations from quite close by. And this was around about the distance that we were at yesterday with regards to the car. And I'm hoping, holding thumbs, that he comes back and we get a chance to film him busy feeding his chicks. Now this time of the morning, probably not going to do too much feeding, but he definitely, it's been an entire evening without these little chicks feeding, and their cries, their hunger cries, are absolutely going to be drawing him back with whatever he can fetch. Now, he was vocalizing from the trees around me. I can actually see him behind us, but a little bit too far away for for us to show him with the camera. Around us at the moment, a bit of a dawn chorus going on. We've got red-billed oxpeckers. I'm keeping my beady eye open. We've literally just walked through buffalo tracks non-stop from when we left camp this morning. We've got a hippo. Pete, I don't think is back. Here he comes. I can hear him coming through. Okay, so he's in the tree on the left-hand side. And he's just going to come in there now. Let's just see what he does. I can see the male. He's in the tree, the tall tree just to the left-hand side of the stump. Top left, yeah. And we'll see if he comes down to his nest. That soft warbling whistle call that you're hearing, that's him. But let's see what he does. We've set ourselves up with a good view of the nest here. It's him making a call over there. So we've literally been walking through these buffalo tracks, and I don't think Pete's in his pond. I walked past there, but I wasn't going to be too close. And now we've got oxpeckers on our right-hand side. So it's always a good thing in the morning here to keep your eyes peeled as much as you can. And Viam and I are sitting basically at eye level to the sand here. That's my eyes and my ears and my gut feel is peeled. Let's see what this guy does. He's still there, still in the tree. Let's see if he's going to be brave enough to come in. Now the reason why he came is just, there he is now. Is as we sat down, his chicks started to call. That noise that you're hearing there is an arrow-marked babbler. Not the violet-backed starling that I'm hoping to show you. Good morning, Wayne, all the way from Pennsylvania, or should I say good evening to you. You've asked, do the starlings close their nests the same as hornbills do? And the answer to that question, Wayne, is no, they don't. They are hole nesting or cavity nesting. Generally speaking, though, these starlings do make nests that are a little bit higher off the ground than this one is here. This nest is in a very exposed position. Not that any nest is inaccessible from little predators. Generally, predators like genets are very keen on raiding birds' nests, genets and mongoose. And that nest, there he is there, right in the back of the tree over there. So he's just having a look at us over there. He's just come in. VM's going to try and show you. It's the male and the female. The female is that drab color that you're looking at. She's the one that you're looking at right now, giving the little wing flick. That's quite characteristic. She's got something in her beak, actually. So both male and female are busy foraging, and that's actually quite an important observation. That obviously birds, their metabolism is very high. Not only that, but birds also operate between a very specific weight range. Too big or too fat and they don't fly, too skinny and they don't have enough energy to fly and look for food. So they operate in a very, very small window. And obviously after an entire evening of not eating, these young birds, having had kept warm, are now starving. And here you have the mother and the dad hunting early in the morning to get enough food to feed their babies so that they have the energy to last the day. A very interesting observation. Now, it's not very common that we get to see female violet-backed starlings like this, and you can see that she's got some stripes down her chest. that lovely noise that she's making. One of my favorite birds. See, the starlings in general I quite enjoy. With the starlings and the shrikes. Crimson-breasted shrike, probably my favorite of all the colored birds, followed very closely by the violet-backed starling. And the only reason why I enjoy the crimson-breasted shrike a bit more is because they don't fly away here at the end of their breeding season and go somewhere else, like these guys do. They go all the way up to Central Africa, so they come from the rainforests. And the reason why they are here and not in the rainforest at the moment is because the rainforests are just deluged by rain this time of the year, and it makes it very difficult to live in a rainforest. So they come out of the equatorial areas, a little bit further south, where there's not as much rain. They come and have their babies, feed on the insects, and then as soon as the rain lets up a little bit, they go back there again. Christy in North Carolina has touched on a topic that I quite enjoy. Firstly, I'd like to say good morning to you, Christy, and secondly, to share your question with everyone else. Your question was, since Jamie's been talking about the weather and about the rain, what does it smell like at the moment? Well, Christy, the smell this time of the year is very different to another time of the year. At the moment, we've got this dust that's kicking up, this sand that we've got, and the sand here in the Sabi Sands is this salty, it's a salty clay smell, more salty than anything else, and mixed with a little bit of moisture in the air almost gives the impression that the air around us has almost a coastal feel. If I were to describe it to you, it would be a similar smell to standing close to the ocean but not within sight of the ocean, with a slight moisture, saltiness that it has to it. It's not that deep summer smell that we're used to smelling this time of the year. Usually this time of the year when we've had some good rains, the smell here is almost thick. It's so humid and full of green. It's the smell of summer for me. This year we're lacking that because it's very dry. And at the moment we've just got this dusty wetness, this salty wetness that is quite characteristic of quite early on in the season. If it were a normal year, I'd associate the smell that we're smelling at the moment with probably around about October, November. That's what it smells like for me, is October, November in the bush, saltiness with a little bit of moisture in the air. Not much green happening this year. All right, I don't think that these are going to be coming into the nest. The male is coming in, but he's going to take a while to get used to us. And while he's getting used to us, I'll send you back through to Jamie. We'll catch up in a little while with something exciting.
I'm still trying to figure out where this line has crossed, or where exactly those sounds are coming from. I've got my Game Drive channel on open comms just so that I can hear any updates from Steph without having to listen through my earpiece. I'm trying to work out, I'm thinking that if I can't hear what Steph is hearing, that possibly this line might be further to the west. It also depends on the position of the line in relation to the contours of the land. Sorry guys, I'm just concentrating on this junction. See if I can see any tracks coming through. I can actually, but it doesn't look like line. It looks like leopard. Old. It's not fresh. Yeah, so it depends on where that line is in terms of the position on a slope. So the lower I am, or if it's behind a ridge, the harder it will be for me to hear it versus Steph. And although I apparently have selective deafness, there's absolutely nothing wrong with my eyesight, and so far there's no tracks crossing this road. There's no way I could have missed them. It's very early, so there hasn't been that much traffic, and it's very dry, so it's very sandy and soft. And the speed that I've been driving down this road, it is almost impossible for me to have missed where this line crossed, if it crossed on the southern boundary. No sign of it around Shabam Road. The only other option is that it crossed from Triple M onto Djuma on our western boundary. If our theory about the buffalo is correct. So if he was following the buffalo from Arathusa, he might have crossed and been wandering on Djuma itself, which might explain why I can't pick up on any tracks crossing this particular boundary here. I'm just going to drive up to the next junction and then I'm going to turn around. We're now getting much further away from where Steph thought the sound was coming from. Where are you, mystery lions? Oh, and Roy Phelps, if you're wondering where the GoPros went, we've just put them away. The rain is threatening, if nothing else, and we definitely don't want that to be sitting in the rain. We can sit in the rain, but the virtual reality rig definitely can't. We've just removed that to take extra precautions. Although I feel as though if my theory about Murphy's Law is true, we should have left it on. Encourage the rain. Come on, lion. Where have you come from? Where did you go? That area, we saw the kudu family as well as lots of giraffe around. And Sandblaster, we were wondering if the entire area of animals moves depending on where the lions are, or are there any animals on the ground that will stick around? And the answer is yes. Fascinatingly, you often find predators in fairly close proximity to prey. So big cats like lions and leopards, and we saw it actually most clearly with those guinea fowl around Tingana the other day. Sorry, we're doing another journey down the southern boundary. Let's figure out where this lion has gone. Squirrels are so shouting. Sorry, Sandblast, I'll be with you in one moment. It's a bird of prey that steered it. Okay, so yes, actually, you see animals, prey animals, very often in close proximity to predators, particularly big cats, and that's because as soon as that element of surprise is gone, the prey species know that they have the upper hand, and that most likely that big cat is not going to attempt any kind of hunt. And the reason behind that is they're ambush predators. So better actually the lion you see than the lion that you don't see, because it's the lion that you don't see that eats you. So they don't move far. They might move away a little bit just to create a safe distance if they see a predator walking through, or if they hear a predator calling. But they will usually try and actually keep an eye on it so that they know where it is. It's an interesting approach, but one that works fairly well for leopards and for lions. So we saw it with the guinea fowl, for example. Now, we made a big joke about the fact that they kept moving past Tingana and alarm calling at him, but they knew that they were at a safe distance, and they would rather know exactly where he is and what he's doing, and that he's not stalking them, rather than actually leaving him alone. And they also therefore serve a purpose for the rest of the animals that might be on Tingana's menu by constantly alerting them to his position. So it is an interesting aspect of the way in which animals function. They don't move very far. It's in certain areas, for example, close to Satara in the Kruger, which has got the highest lion density of anywhere, that would actually mean if they did move, that they would be constantly moving away from predators. So in general, they don't bother. But something like a kudu or a giraffe, if lions do walk through an area, they give you signs. So although they might stay in the area, they are still going to be on extra alert, because just because you see one lion doesn't mean there aren't two around the corner waiting to ambush you. And also, you would get alarm calls. Kudu definitely alarm call at lions, which makes me think that he's not walking up Weaver's Nest. I don't know where he's walking though. Can't quite figure this out. I wish I could have heard him. So Kim, you've asked which animal tracks are the easiest to identify. Depends on the situation, I would say. Lion tracks should be pretty easy. Hippo tracks, elephant tracks, rhino tracks, maybe buffalo tracks. Let's see what, I would be interested to see what Steph thinks about it, because I think it differs from person to person. You can easily see something like an elephant track, but you don't necessarily in the beginning know if it's an elephant track unless you see the completed track, or if it's something like a hippo or a rhino, just a segment of the track. So it takes a little bit of practice to get to know the finer identifying details, but certainly I find that elephant tracks, hippo tracks, rhino tracks for me are the easiest to identify quickly when I'm driving like this. And actually lion paw prints, easiest for me in terms of paw prints are hyena paws, because of the way that they walk. And I'd be curious to find out if Steph actually agrees with me. So let's head over to him. I'll catch up with you later, hopefully with a lion.
All right, so I think I'm live at the moment. I've got a bit of scratchy comms coming through in my ear, so excuse us if it was a little bit of a rushed getting ready over there. Myself and VM have moved into the area where a bit earlier this morning we heard lion vocalization coming from. Now, although it was quite far from where we are right now, I would judge probably about 1 kilometer or 2 as the crow flies. Lions move, and especially this time of the day, and especially on days that are a little bit overcast like they are now. So I'm not expecting to bump into a lion anytime soon. What I'm hoping for is that this lion gives 1 or 2 more vocalizations and allows us to start pinpointing his direction. And that way, Jamie can come with a vehicle and we can get into the area and we can maybe help track this lion if he's not on a road. Now, I know Jamie's been talking to you a little bit about tracks and tracking and what are the most easily recognizable spoor. But I think as far as my career goes, at least anyway, although they're spoor easy to identify, which would be, as Jamie quite rightly said, elephant and hippopotamus and rhino and, giraffe are the most recognizable. For me, the track that sort of generates the most emotion would have to be a lion. There's just something about seeing a lion spoor his pug mark, especially a male lion, pug mark in a sand that sort of generates these little caveman feelings that I'm sure we all carry deep within us. And you just feel this bubble, this, I don't know what to call it, this excitement that sort of bubbles up deep inside your chest cavity. You just know that at some point we were sitting somewhere and looking at lions who were at the top of the food chain at that particular part of it. And being out here in the bush, part of the magic of being on foot is actually to plug oneself back into that. And you sort of slough off your civilized chains. Or at least I do, at least anyway. The further and the deeper I get into the bush, the more at peace I feel and the more I start feeling part of the environment. But that also has the dark side of the coin. It has another effect, is that you plug yourself back into the food chain again. And absolutely you become not hunter and hunted. Man is a very big predator, the largest on earth, and animals see you as that, but we don't always see ourselves as that. Me in particular, I'm very deeply respectful of the bush. I enjoy letting the big animals know that they're big, and I'm just just a nobody. Anyway, we're going to carry on walking through here and keeping our eyes open. We're going to stop and speak about some interesting things on the way. It also allows us to stop and listen to the bush in front of us. And let's carry on going. Looks like some elephant have been here before us. Been some pretty fresh tracks as we've been coming along. We're now on a footpath. Now, that starling's nest that we were at a little bit earlier, that nest is very close to Vuyatela Dam. And so you have all these footpaths that go down to the water and then sort of radiate away from them. And that's what we're walking on at the moment, is one of these animal paths that radiates away from Vuyatela Dam. Two things I'm hoping to find on this path while we're at it is, one, I would like to find a sour plum bush today. I've been waiting for the sour plums to ripen with much anticipation for the whole season. Unfortunately, there are no sour plums that are ripe just yet. In Hoedspruit, the sour plums are ripe, but yesterday, just as I went into the hyena dens, the hyena den that we've got here, there's a sour plum bush just as you go towards the den, and I saw they had some tiny sour plums. But I'm hoping to find a bush closer to a drainage line that has actually got some ripe ones today. Now, I've still got very scratchy communications with FC. I think what we are in a bit of a shadow, like a radio shadow. So what we're going to do, VM and I, we're going to try and get some height and see if that doesn't fix the communications problem. But for now, we'll just take it that we are still with you and that you're joining us for the walk. I think I've just got to go and pick a nice pathway for VM to walk through here. He's got a bit of an aerial on his back. While we now, most of the morning this morning has been quite weird. There's been quite a lot of Birchall starlings that have been flying around us, and they, for some reason this morning, I'm just hearing a lot of their wing beats. It's this real hollow, bamboo-y noise that is coming from their wing beats. It's actually quite a fascinating thing. I've noticed VM has noticed it as well. There was some flying around us and they were making some noise. And now one's just flown out of these tall knobthorns that we've got here. Aren't they fantastic? 3 huge knobthorns, one of them dead. One of them very close to being completely ring-barked. We've got lions roaring again in the distance. Let's see if this lion that we're looking for answers. So the one lion I can hear is here. Probably about 4 or 5 kilometers away, very far. But the other one that we had, the noise of him was coming from here. And let's see if he answers. So far nothing, which could mean one of a couple of things. Either this lion is not ready to answer just yet, or he's a little bit out of his comfort zone and doesn't want to draw too much attention to himself. He definitely was closer than that other one though. Alright, no answer there. Let's carry on going and see if we can get out of this radio shadow so that I can get Jerry back in our ears. Come along. There we go. We've got lion vocalizing. So we've got lions roaring. There. So if I can put my finger on it, he's roaring straight where you're looking at the moment. And that is exactly Twin Dams and Twin Dams Junction with Gowrie, Main. So I'm going to quickly try and update Jamie. Hopefully she's in the area and heard that as well. Jamie, come in for Steph. All right. Looks like these radios today. Jamie, Steph. Looks like we're having problems with communications all around today. See if I can get hold of Jerry and she can ask Jamie what's going on. Jamie or FC, come in for Steph. I copy you probably half out of 5. Just to let you know, we got audio of the vocalization of that male lion again. He's somewhere around Twin Dams Junction, Gowrie, Main. Could you just confirm whether we're still live? Well, I just asked Jerry to find out if we are still live. I have no idea, so I'm just going to carry on as if we are still live. I have every reason to believe that you're probably with Jamie right now, but in any case, let's carry on going. We're going to see if we can get a bit closer to where that male lion was vocalizing, and hopefully we can give Jamie a hand to try and find him.
We appear to have lost Steph there for a moment. I'm sure they will be working on reuniting all of you with him once again in a moment. Now Steph can hear lion calls from where he is further north of my position. I'm currently driving up Twin Dams. The only thing I can think of is that this male is working his way east to try and reunite with the rest of the coalition, which is why he's not full-on calling. He's doing those very soft contact roars. And his hearing, because it's infinitely better than mine, although apparently not much better than Steph's, he can hear the responses of his brothers and his cousins a bit further to the east. I'm trying to figure out exactly what route he's taking and get a little bit closer to him so that I can hear the sounds he's making. Steph and Jamie. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to get hold of Steph. I think he's turned his game drive channel down while he was presenting and maybe forgot to turn it back up. Generally while you're walking as well, you keep your radios turned right down so that you don't add any levels of noise disruption to your walk. up along Twin Dams now. I'm actually going to keep my eye out for Steph. And hopefully he can point in the direction in which I need to go. I need to either hear this lion now or see his tracks to figure out where he's gone to. Be interesting to see though when we do find him who it was and where he's wound up from where he started this morning. This has been something of a chase almost to try and catch up with him, and I think he's constantly moving and constantly calling between to the rest of the coalition. And we said originally, oh, there's Steph. Let's go have a quick word with him. Morning, Steph. You've been ignoring FC. They've lost you.
Ignoring FC. We've been presenting to no one.
Oh, that's...
It makes for good practice.
It does make for good practice. I did it for 20 minutes once.
Hello, everybody. So, we just heard him vocalize again, probably 3 or 4 minutes ago. Exactly there.
This is fascinating. I have driven circles around that place. I cannot find a single track.
I must be honest with you, he does sound like he's on the other side of Gowrie Main Line, just on the other side.
I think that was because I can't find any tracks crossing, but I think he's making his way back towards the rest of them.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll pick him up.
Just before he vocalized, there in that direction, and I would call it probably the junction somewhere in Hoffman's, maybe a little bit towards the airstrip side.
Okay.
Some more, 2 or 3 more that are calling.
Awesome. Thank you, Steph. Right, we're going to go in that direction.
Yeah, well, we'll
enjoy your walk.
That's okay. You too. Enjoy your drive. We'll catch up with you in a bit.
Okay, cheers.
Ciao.
Bye-bye. Okay, change of plan. Let's go this way. So the reason it sounds as though that we haven't picked up any tracks is that our gentleman friend has not yet crossed Gowrie Main. That's what Steph says it sounds like, which makes a little bit more sense as to why I couldn't hear him. Just because Steph is up on the crest of this hill, so he's somewhere just on the other side, and that's why there's no tracks crossing. But if Steph says he could hear some more vocalizing around Arathusa, I think that's our next port of call, is to head across there and see if they really were following onto that herd of buffalo. So we shall leave Steph to explore the wilds of Djuma on foot. Shame. I know exactly what it's like to lose communication and to continue to present to no one except yourself and the cameraman. It's always an entertaining moment. And somehow those are always your best moments of presenting, where you feel as though you've been at your most interesting. Possibly falsely, but you certainly feel that way. It's experience that's shared only with you, the cameraman, and the wilds of Djuma. Okay. Let's sort this out and change up our game plan. Sorry, impalas. Good morning. Nice, huge herd that we're moving past. I'm not going to stop for them though. Oh, babies everywhere. Right, sorry, I'm not stopping for them. Time to make our way towards the Arathusa corner and see what's happening there. Let's try and catch up with these lions, plural. Lions, plural. It's not just one anymore. Steph says he heard more of them calling around the Arathusa Hoffman's corner. You just need to get off the incredibly bouncy Ingwe Alley. following lions is very much a team effort, very much more effective if it's a team effort rather. So Anna would like to know whether, as we follow and look for lions and leopards can interbreed, producing lipads and leons, or whatever they would be. No, not naturally. In theory, most of the Panthera genus can be forced by mankind to interbreed. It is a hugely unnatural process. Naturally occurring things like ligers, so a mixture between a tiger and a lion, or tigons, the other way around, are very, very rare. It's a very rare situation that natural interbreeding occurs. And almost inevitably, it's something that is being forced upon those animals by human beings, and the offspring that they produce are completely sterile and very often genetically faulty. So it is a hugely, in my opinion, a hugely unethical process to interbreed types of cats that would not necessarily do so in the wild. It's a step far too far in terms of intervention. Probably in theory, yes, but it would never, ever, ever occur in the wild. Sorry, pump working overtime to fill up Peter's can outside underneath the Juma Dam camera, drawing up water from underground. So I did a little bit of research into the interbreeding between the different big cat species, and you can mix almost all of them through serious human intervention or serious medical intervention. The ethics of that are questionable, but beyond that, it never occurs in the wild. It's not even like the odd tigon or liger that very occasionally occurs naturally, very, very occasionally. Crossbreeding between a lion and a leopard never happens naturally, ever. And in fact, for the most part, such an encounter would result in the death of the female leopard concerned, or the male leopard concerned, because as we know, lions will go out of their way. If they can catch a leopard, they will go out of their way to kill it as a way of reducing competition. In the same way they would with a cheetah, in the same way leopards would with lion cubs. It is one of those natural processes out here. Oh, I forgot to mention to Steph that there's a big breeding herd of elephant wandering its way up towards him from between Weaver's Nest and Twin Dams Road, south of Elephant Carcass for now. So maybe if FC could pass that message on for me, just so that he knows. Although I know Steph's skill in the bush, he would have seen and heard them long before it was any kind of a problem. Lion, you have to come a bit further north to come join us here, and the rain is descending as well, little drops dribbling down. You'll notice that I'm going quite fast, unusually fast for me, my normal game drive speed down this road. It's because I've driven down this road 3 times this morning, so I'm fairly familiar with its contents now. Drainage line 3 times. This is where I thought the lion was going to pop up. It seems as though he hasn't made it quite north of our boundary yet. Let's go find out if the others have. the last time it was that you saw one of the Birmingham boys. I think my last sighting of them was around Big Cat Week. I believe Tebs mentioned that there was a Birmingham boy somewhere around Christmas, Tebs. Is that right? When I was on leave? Before Christmas. Or sometime just before Christmas. Good morning, Kudu. Sorry guys, I'm stopping for one moment because this morning before the lions started to call, my plan for the morning was to spend time with these female kudu who are tremendously pregnant. And I'm really hoping at some point we might catch, we'd be very, very lucky, but to be able to catch a live kudu birth. Here you go, Mark Hunter. I found one of them. Or I don't know if it's her. I know you wanted me to find the pregnant kudu from yesterday. If I discover that the lions haven't crossed our boundary yet, but that they have been found by other guides, then I will go and search for the other pregnant kudu that we saw yesterday. Some of them looked so close to giving birth, it was actually imminent. The birth was imminent. So I know that we're all curious to see. That was originally my plan for the morning, was to go and find the pregnant kudu around Nyala Road South. She's also very pregnant. Sorry, girlie. So if I don't have any luck with the lions, then I'll head back. But at the moment, there's such a good chance that they're going to pop across onto our property. What we need is for the Salati males to call. And then we will have them all rushing through to come and defend their territorial lines. But I think the Salatis have been very quiet at the moment. First of all, because they've got enormously full bellies. They've been settled with the Talamati pride and killing a buffalo roughly every 3 days. In real typical drought scenario. But also because one of them is apparently quite badly injured. I haven't seen it myself. He has an injury to his leg. And I'm not entirely sure exactly the extent of the injury. That was not a phantom drop, that was a real drop. For the third time, good morning, giraffes. I hope that you are well. Oh, here comes the rain. I'm going to move away from our little giraffe here and put the rain cover on. Oh, and move out of the way at the same time. Good morning, Doug. How are you?
How are you?
Good, thanks. Hi, guys. Good, thanks. Yeah, one of the...
Yeah, we've got quite up on the outer yard, a nest in the south towards the WildEarth boundary, and then there's something left around Vessels
We were living in hope, scouring for tracks coming across to us.
Yeah, sign of anything weird.
Nothing that we picked up.
What about wind boomers?
Boomers apparently went east of Kruger 2.5 days ago, or something like that.
They'll be back.
Yeah, they went from Biffelship to the Torchwood side.
Cool, guys.
Enjoy.
Well, good luck to you, yeah?
Cheers. Good morning.
I don't know if you're allowed to look at the coffee, but Londo's will probably just got to go down.
Maybe not live. Cheers, Doug. I just need to put the rain cover on, guys. Sorry, it is starting to drizzle fairly heavily. I just want to go up onto the crest of this ridge. So the update from Doug, there are mating lines further south of Annette's. So the calls that Steph probably heard in response, that is what those were. And you get to join us, I guess, for the incredible rain cover experience, so you'll have to forgive us. But we cannot risk the equipment being damaged by water, obviously. And I can see lots of drizzle making its way towards us. So, okie dokie. Yeah, I was looking at the giraffe there. Sorry, I'm just chatting to Tibbs. So, you get to participate in this entire process. This is the dashboard cover. And the dashboard cover covers the important equipment like the monitors, as well as the radios, does mean that I can't see what you're looking at now. So I'm now officially flying. No, wait, hold on. I'll do this. There we go. I can see what you're looking at. Ted is going to be folding the rain cover over the camera. Now, we usually would switch to bushwalk for this experience, but at the moment, still has no communications at all. Unfortunately, something's gone wrong with the radio. So you'll have to bear with us. What is it about human beings that we need to make bags with openings that are too small for the contents which they contain? There we go. Let's just get it out. Okay. Got to unplug my earpiece for this part. And actually I have to get out of the car for this part. I'm now officially wearing the rain cover in an attempt to figure out which way around it goes. Here we go. Thank you, Debs. Oh no! Now we're causing a traffic jam. Nope, no we're not. Morning, morning. Sorry guys, black screen for a moment. The back this is the back towards the antenna. Well, aren't you getting a behind the scenes look as to what happens when it starts to drizzle? Now the best part about this entire rain plan, this whole setup, as Tevs tucks it in there. Hello, back again. The best part about this whole rain cover is that it is perfectly designed to pour water down my lower back. That's where it all pulls down to. Now, Tebs has got to sit with his legs around the camera. He then gets a sort of I don't know how to describe it. I don't want to call it a skirt. Let's call it an umbrella around his waist. How's that? There we go. And then across to Tebs. And my job here is to cover up, first of all of my books and my phone and all of the rest of the equipment. Here we go. The good news is, of course, it has stopped raining. Somewhat inevitably. But, on the other hand, it's raining. It's drizzling. This is incredible. This is the first time this has happened in a very long time. Readjusting the cover underneath myself slightly so that the runoff doesn't touch any delicate equipment. So, Wicked Blue Band, will this drizzle be of any help? First of all, it actually looks like there might be some serious rain coming, which is terribly exciting. Such wonderful news. And secondly, every little bit helps. No, it won't be. Save us from the drought, but it is such a relief to feel moisture coming out of the sky. I cannot begin to describe it to you. It's the most incredible feeling. After days and days and weeks without rain and that dry feel in the air and plants wilting, it will just be enough to rejuvenate that bush ever so slightly, get the nutrients up that the animals need to feed on. So nice. I'm going to take my hat off so that I can feel the full extent for the moment until it starts to blind me, at which point I'll put my cap back on. But to just feel the rain on our faces is, I think, oh, that smell. You're all familiar with that smell, that after rain smell. There's in fact even a name for it. Not that I can think of what it is off the top of my head. There's a name for the smell of the earth after rain. And I can tell you, having been in a lot of different places around the world after the rain, there is nothing that competes with the scent of Africa when it starts to rain. It's this fresh, earthy smell. There's our gentleman. Hello, boy. We ignored you earlier, didn't we? No, don't stop. Please don't stop drizzling. Just keep drizzling. What we need, actually, is steady drizzle. Steady drizzle for a day. That would really help, rather than a huge downpour to wash away the topsoil. We need this steady drizzle to just set in and stay with us. So yes, Alyssa, I said that a steady day of drizzle would be what we need. A sudden downpour, particularly not necessarily a short-lived sudden downpour, that would be lovely, but a sudden downpour where 100 mil falls in one day, that would be seriously, almost as equally disastrous as the drought, because it would start to wash the topsoil away. There's hardly any grass cover left, which means that there's not much holding that top layer of soil in place. And as a result, a big downpour could actually have more negative consequences. So the knock-on effect from the drought itself and from the lack of rain early in the season could then have negative consequences even if it does rain. And we're not being spoiled or difficult, we just need this landscape to start recovering. I'm just taking off my jacket. My mad race around the place has warmed me up considerably. I'm also quite enjoying the feel of the rain on my skin. Our monkey man. And the nice thing about this as well is that this gentle drizzle means we don't have to cancel a drive, but I'm glad that you are all rejoicing, even if it means that we did have to cancel the drive. The fact that we finally got a little bit of rain, even just a little bit, is something that we can all enjoy. Now, the Lions still haven't made it back across, and just to let you know, that update from Doug suggests that they're moving further south. They're already south of the Arethusa boundary. They're in Annette's property, and they're mating. It's one of the mating Birmingham boys. And then we can hear stuff going on to the south of Gowrie Main, to the south of our boundary. Now it's just a question as to whether or not they actually pop over onto our side. I wonder what this boy is thinking. I wonder if he is as happy as we are to see rain coming through, or if he's just far too concentrated on whatever breakfast happens to be this morning. You can hear the kingfishers, they're thrilled. Chirp, chirr. It's gone away again. I really hope it stays. It looked as though it was going to. There's considerable cloud cover further east. Come on, rain. Let's do this properly. I can't roll around and rejoice in drizzle. Thank you, Marianne. Petrichor. That's the word I was looking for. The smell of the earth after the rain. It's one of those smells that I think is universally accepted as one of the best smells in the world. Right up top there with freshly mown grass. which is, of course, not a smell you often smell out here, unless an elephant's been wandering through, in which case that's what their dung smells like to me. But at the moment, the smell is all the sweeter for the amount of time that we've had to wait for the rain to actually come. I don't even know when the last rains were. It was a good couple of weeks ago, and the last proper downfall was months ago. And we've seen this elephant before. I recognize that tear in his left ear and those nice big tusks of his. He's quite a nice big mature bull. He is beautiful. Yes, James Richards, this is exactly what it's doing. It's mizzling at the moment. Mizzle. That's my word for a combination of mist and drizzle. So it's that stage just before the drizzle really hits, but the moisture in the air is slightly thicker than mist. I've decided that is the word mizzle, and it's mizzling at the moment. Usually, I have to admit, I've used it with a negative connotation. It's a word I first used when I lived in the UK, funnily enough. I'm probably not the first person to use that word either, just to clarify. I'm sure it's been used by other people. I just felt as though I had invented it. And in the UK, I used it in a slightly negative sense to describe those kind of grey, gloomy days where it's mizzling. But at the moment, I say mizzle with the greatest sense of optimism one could possibly say it with. It is mizzling. I'm thrilled. I'm hoping the mizzle progresses to drizzle, and the drizzle progresses to a gentle rain. A gentle rain would be lovely. Nothing too harsh. We don't want to be washing away topsoil layers, but let me show you something. I'm going to reposition so that we can look east. So at the moment we're looking straight west. Sorry if you're getting ambient noise on the microphone there. There's the rest of the breeding herd actually. I will stick with these ellies until we hear a little bit more about the situation with the lions. I want to show you what's coming. It's closer than the last time I looked. I'll duck my head down. There you go. Mizzle, ladies and gentlemen. Mizzle with a tiny hint of rain. For the first time in weeks, I couldn't be happier. So exciting. Interestingly, mizzle coming from the east, which is quite uncommon. Maybe it's pushing up from the south rather. It's not often that our weather systems come and approach us from the east. You can hear the kingfishers whistling away in absolute joy and surprise that the rain actually came. I've never been happier to have been proved wrong. I thought we were just going to go straight back into another heat wave without any kind of relief from it. Fortunately, the rain has returned. Let me see if I can get another nice visual of these elephants. There's actually a whole breeding herd in here. Oh, rain. So Pat is watching in Hamburg. We drive along to try and get you a nice view of these elephants. It does sound like the birds are happy, doesn't it? I mean, I know we hear the kingfishers all the time, and I think maybe... No, I don't think it's that anthropomorphic. I think they know, and they celebrate the arrival of the rain. They must do. It makes total sense that they do. And it means for them, it means far more access to food. There'll be another burst of insects in their population. These are happy kingfishers sitting on the power lines. Chirping away. They're sitting up there. I'm not going to get the clearest view. You can hear them happening. They are so happy. Bee eaters, actually. Oh no, that is a kingfisher. There you can see the one on the right calling. As thrilled as we are at the arrival of the rain. And remember when I said I was hot? I'm not anymore. The jacket can go straight back on. Come on, lions. Now you really have to make our day. We've had our rain. We've got our rain. It's not enough yet, obviously. Certainly don't want it to stop. We've had our rain. Now we want some lions. Let's be really demanding this morning. Oh, so nice. In Kentucky as well. I hope you are enjoying it as much as I am. You were wondering, because we passed that very pregnant kudu, and the lions are very much in close proximity. They're just somewhere here to the south of us, to the south of our boundary. And you were wondering if lions or maybe other predators can smell when an animal is about to give birth, when a kudu, for example, is about to give birth. And I'm not sure. Yes, I think they certainly would smell the birthing process. The animal would definitely carry a stronger scent. Let's see something, sorry. Bear with me one moment. Just going to continue my usual tradition of just removing litter if we ever spot any. I actually thought that was a very unusual piece of buffalo dung, but it's not. It's a piece of plastic. So I think that I don't necessarily know if they can smell when they're just about to give birth, but as soon as the water breaks, then yes, they're going to have a stronger scent than normal. I mean, obviously there's blood and mucus mixed in with that. And considering the fact, if we look at the way that the male impalas have reacted to the pregnancies of the females, in that they've gone into a false rut. Oh, this is so nice. This is incredible. Then yes, lions must be able to smell those hormones as well. I definitely think that they'll know when an animal is pregnant. And for them that means not necessarily 2 meals in one, but definitely a more substantial meal. One that includes a really healthy amount of calcium for them. Ooh, it's raining. This is no longer mizzle, this is drizzle. Drizzle with a hint of rain on the side. Tibbs, would you like a poncho? Yes, please. Okie dokie. Pass the poncho back to Tibbs. Morning. How are you? Good, thank you. Have those Ngala made any appearance or? Okay. Okay. All right. Thanks very much. Not that we've picked up on. There was some audio of Ngala somewhere south around Chitwa area. Yeah, I don't know if they seem to be moving up and down this morning. Heard them a couple of times. Okay, enjoy. Okay. Cheers. Right, so you're all familiar with the incredibly fashionable blue ponchos. I'm going to hand one back to Tibbs. It's also a way for him to ensure that not only he's covered, but also that the equipment is covered as well. I'm going to try and salvage the situation that's happening here with my reference books by tucking this cover further over. I would prefer not to. There we go, this will work. Pop a water bottle on top of it. Here we go. sorted. So sandblasting, you were wondering, while Tebs places his poncho on, which animal would be the most susceptible or the most affected by this drought. It's difficult to say. I've mentioned that I think animals like frogs and fish and the reptiles, the chelonians like tortoises, will have been quite severely affected. In terms of mammals, buffalo are very high on the list. The elephants are very grumpy at the moment, but buffalo, I would say, are one of the most affected. They are hugely water-dependent animals. They don't really move in arid areas throughout the country. They are low-felt based. They need to drink once a day. And they're also bulk grazers. So the plant material that's suffering the most at the moment is the grasses, the grass layer. So without that, the buffalo are seriously struggling. I've noticed very skinny warthogs. Elands as well also tend to struggle in sudden changes in climate. So I'm sure all of the animals are currently rejoicing at our drizzle. It's not even mizzle anymore, it's drizzle. And it does mean that Tebs is going to now have to act almost like a windscreen wiper to keep the lens clean. So guys, the two lines that Steph heard calling are around just south of our boundary. So when triple M turns into double M on Annette's property, that is where they are. I've just got an update from one of the Elephant Plains guys. We'll just have to keep patrolling the southern boundary to see if the others decide to come north. This is glorious. I wonder if Steph is rejoicing as well. Now I imagine what the lions are doing at the moment is being tucked under a bush, looking rather miserable. And Desiree, you were wondering how the big cats feel about the rain. I think they're fairly indifferent to it, to be honest. They've grown up their entire lives obviously having to sit through things like thunderstorms and sit in drizzle for 2 weeks at a time. So I think for them it is just par for the course. It doesn't seem to bother them terribly. They might go and seek refuge somewhere underneath a bush, something along those lines, maybe tuck themselves away there. And actually what you'll find is that they move around quite a bit on these rainy days because the temperatures are nice and low, so they're not stressing about finding shade and spending the day sleeping. And then as soon as the rain stops, that is when the real big cat action happens. First of all, when it gets dark, the rain muffles sounds, so their hunting abilities are far more pronounced, and they've got the advantage over the other animal species. Aside from that, it also means that all of their territorial markings have been washed away, or not, if not washed away, then certainly lessened by the effects of the rain. So that means they're out. As soon as the rain stops, you're going to see leopards patrolling, male lions patrolling, all moving through their territory to come and scent mark once again. It's the wondrous thing about rain. Everything's wonderful right now. I'm so happy. You don't realize how much you miss something until it has disappeared for a long time. Just to give you an update as to what Steph is up to. Steph's having some problems with the combination of communicating and broadcasting at the same time. So he's gone wandering back across to DRC. He'll be out in Rusty fairly shortly to supplement our sunrise safari without the sunrise because it's raining, which is glorious. You better take this opportunity to go across the treehouse dam wall while we have it, because when this wall starts to get muddy, it becomes a very scary process and one that I usually avoid. You start to sort of slip sideways. Come on, don't stop, rain. Keep raining. Just keep raining. Hello, Elizabeth. You were wondering if a kudu would postpone its birth, having chatted a bit, and that's where I'm heading now. I'm going to go see if I can find those pregnant kudu from yesterday. You're wondering if it sensed a predator or smelt a predator close by, if it would postpone the birth. I don't think it has that much control. Once the whole process has started, I don't think it would be able to be honest. I think we seriously overestimate the level of control animals have over the birthing process, but I'm not sure. I don't know enough about when they go into labor. I certainly think that if a pregnant female kudu sensed a predator nearby, she would, depending on the stage of her labor that she was at, I think she would try and move out of the area as quickly as possible, as quickly and as quietly as possible without drawing attention to herself. Jigger's steering wheel is molting in the moisture. I don't know. I'd love to know what degree of control animals have over their birthing process. I mean, we as human beings, essentially, when the baby wants to come, it will come. We can induce labor, but we certainly, towards full term, cannot really do much to prevent the whole process. Not ourselves, not personally, without medical intervention. So it would be fascinating to know how animals experience the entire process of childbirth, obviously not childbirth, but how they experience the process of going into labor. And what is it that helps them time having their babies around the early morning or in the middle of the day? How do they do that? I don't know. Is it instinct? Is it biological? I honestly have no idea. Do a little bit, I think I'm going to do some more research into it when I get home and find out a bit more about it. That's where I'm on my way to now. The other guides are moving south around the properties. Those of them that can traverse those particular areas, they've moved into them to try and have a look and see if they can follow up on those lions that we're calling. And they've told me that they will update me as to their progress. So if those lions start to move north, then we'll get an update. We'll be able to rush back to where we think they might cross. At the moment though, I don't think it's worth spending more time driving up and down the same boundary. We've had a bit of rain, although it's stopping, and I really wish it wouldn't. I wish it would continue. We were wondering how soon after this rain would the grass go green. And as James has said, we're still within the growth season, so it's around February that the growth of the grass and the tree stops. And it will be very quick. If it's enough rain to trigger another fresh growth, the grass blades will start and the shoots will start to go green in the next few days. If you keep watching, you'll be able to see, the wonders about these live safaris is that you'll be able to watch the whole process happen. And in the next 2 or so days, we're going to start to see the first beginnings of those tiny shoots. Watch out, Tebs, I don't want to pierce your ears on a buffalo thorn. The animals, having chatted a bit about the effect of the rain on the cats, the response of most of the other animals is to move into slightly denser bush to stay sheltered away from it. Generally, animals don't stand in the rain unless they absolutely have to. the elephants have moved somewhere into this block on my right. Oh, Jimmy Come back. Why are these Jimmy so shy? Where is he going to land? In that marina tree. It's so interesting. They are such shy birds of prey. I don't think I can get a clear view of it. We've tried. So the gymnogene is a harrier hawk, is the official name. There we go. You can actually see it on the branch of that marula tree there. Don't fly, don't fly. Teb's having to shuffle round in his many-layered rain cover. There you can see it to the right, Tebs, and down a little bit. It's on that branch, that movement there. Oh, and I actually think it's raiding nests. This could be exciting. It's not often that you get to see a harrier hawk that isn't being mobbed by other birds. So they are notorious nest raiders. They've got double-jointed feet and legs that allow them to bend backwards. And now that he's moved there, can you just see his face and his crest poking out? I think he's looking for nests to raid. That is their speciality. And what that means is that they are... There he goes, look at him. I think he's looking for a hole like a lilac-breasted roller nest site or something similar. As you can imagine, that does not make them the most popular birds out here. And other bird species like fork-tailed drongos will come and mob him and try and peck at his back and fly low and swoop low over him or her to try and send it packing. It's interesting, though, is that nobody seems to have spotted it yet. See him walking along the branch looking for eggs to steal. And they'll also feed on other species, so they'll feed on snakes. They are birds of prey. Exploring a different level. Look at the way that it's moving. It's definitely searching for crevices in this tree, for nest holes that have been left unguarded by the parents. Ducking its head in. There are those long bare legs. Look, nothing there. On to the next level. Still hasn't been spotted. I think this is... oh no, those are swallows, but they won't do anything. I think this is the first time I've seen a harrier hawk in a long time that hasn't been in the process of being harassed by other birds. Now, this is nesting season for most of the bird species, which means they are on very high alert. Oh, that tree's been deemed to be empty, and on to the next one. The temperature's feeling a little bit up and down at the moment. The rain has stopped and now I'm really warm, so jacket comes off again until it starts to drizzle again. That was too short-lived to really have had any kind of an impact. We might have rejoiced a little bit too soon. Come on, rain, we need to set in properly. Well, that's interesting. I think that harrier hawk is going to continue to raid nests from tree to tree. Very common to see them in marula tree because that's a very common nest site tree. Make our way from that harrier hawk sighting. Macy, who is watching in the Caribbean, Macy, you were watching a documentary on birds that stammer, and you in fact have a stammer yourself, and you were wondering if we have any birds out here that have stammers in South Africa or on Djuma. I'm trying to think. There are birds that do sound like they have a stammer. So something like a very repetitive bird call, like a cisticola or something like that, before it goes into its full call. I've also heard, and it was this one incredible mystery I never solved. So we get lots of birds with a mimicking sound. We also get birds with accents. So birds, just like people, that come from the same species of bird, but that comes from a different area, has a slightly different accent and a slightly different tone to the way that they call. And there was one bird that I always encountered that had a very interesting whistle that it seemed to get stuck on. It was like half of a bird call. It would repeat over and over and over again, but never complete the full chagra call. And I think it was a bird that was imitating, but didn't necessarily get the full call out. In terms of other stammering birds, honestly, Macy, not that I know of off the top of my head, but I would not be surprised at all if there are some out here. Oh, here comes the drizzle again. Actually, I do know of one. It was a hardy-jaw ibis. It used to live in my garden as a child, and it very clearly used to, the call didn't flow as well as necessarily the other birds did. It would get stuck in the first half of the call. That's been my one experience with a stammering bird. Hawk is actually one of the smaller raptor species, but definitely one of the most extraordinary looking. But Roy would like to know what our largest raptor is that we get out here, or largest bird of prey. So I must make a distinction there. The largest raptor, so for example eagles, hawks, anything like that, is the martial eagle with close to a 3-meter wingspan. Absolutely extraordinary big bird. Big eagle, capable of, and actually recorded to have, tackled small antelope species as possible prey. Very, very well known for carrying off small monkeys, or even big monkeys, as well as occasionally, and very sadly, people's pet dogs out here. If anyone has a small toy breed, runs a serious risk. And I know I spent a great deal of Lexi's puppyhood scanning the skies to make sure that she wasn't going to be taken by a martial eagle. It was only when she topped out over 20 kilograms that I stopped worrying about it. So, and then, but the reason I said we need to make that distinction in terms of raptors versus birds of prey, there are a couple of stork species that are much larger, certainly height-wise, than the martial eagle. The biggest of those and the largest carrion bird that we have out here is the marabou stork. And those birds we've seen quite frequently around the dams as they started to dry up. They've now moved on, looking for other opportunities. But that is probably the largest meat-eating bird that we get out here. But there's quite a few really big species. There's the huge lappet-faced vulture, a couple of the really large storks. And since we're talking about it, oh no, wrong tree, sorry, wrong tree. It's the next corner. That's the harrier hawk nest is at, the gymnogene nest. Where are these kudu? They were here yesterday. That, of course, does not mean they're going to be here today, but I suspect that they're going to be moving about in very similar areas, particularly those pregnant females. They're trying to hang out around the drainage line, somewhere where they can be safely tucked away if they do start to go into labor. So I suspect they'll be around here somewhere. Just while we come around this corner, up in the V of this Balanites tree, one of the most beautiful trees out here, that bird that we were watching raid nests That harrier hawk. This is a harrier hawk nest up in this tree. So that messy bundle of sticks. I don't know if it's the same harrier hawk that is the harrier hawk associated with this nest. I'm not sure. It's impossible to tell, although they are territorial, so it could well be. We're very close to where we saw it. I haven't seen any sign of a chick though, and in fact I actually haven't seen the adults sitting on that nest for a while. They were in almost constant attendance. No sign of life just yet. Should be around the time that the eggs are hatching. Very interesting exercise. There's kudu tracks going in here. We spend a lot of time tracking things like lions and leopards and following them from day to day if we can and getting a better idea of their movements, but we really don't spend all that much time following a group of antelope species for a couple of days. And this could be a very interesting exercise in trying to work out where they've gone. It's certainly the first time I've ever deliberately gone out looking for a specific group of kudu. This is a first in my career. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Hello, you're an unusual find. What are you doing all the way over here, girl? Aww. Being shy. Aww. The female bushbuck. The smallest, also related to the kudu, the smallest member of the spiral-horned antelope species. Goes bushbuck, nyala, kudu, and then eland in this area. And the bushbuck is probably the one that we see the least. And I'm not sure why that is. I've never seen, although I suppose it's because we're not around river systems and that's their preferred habitat. But I've seen huge herds of Inyala, which like to utilize the same areas as bushbuck, but maybe actually are out competing the bushbuck in their own way, which is why we hardly ever see them. And as far as we know, the reason I said, what are you doing out here to the bushbuck, is because there's a female that lives at DRC, and sometimes at Ingas if we're lucky, and 2 males, and we can identify those 3 because we see them so often. Okay, so kudu tracking. If we were kudu, where would we go from yesterday? My career. It's the first time I've ever tracked a group of kudu, but Kathy, you're wondering when and where we get our guiding skills from, and Kathy lives in Tennessee but has found herself paying attention to the wildlife around her and learning quite a lot from watching these drives. Kathy, there's lots of different ways that you can go about training. Certain lodges offer the training course themselves. You can do it on your own privately. You can write the exams and then organize a practical examination as well. Just to get your basic starting point guiding level, you have to be qualified with governmental organizations, and you have to, most people tend to go as well through the Field Guide Association of South Africa. And there's lots of different ways you can go about that. That being said, you learn the most the minute you start working. The minute you start to spend every single day, at least once a day, but usually twice a day, going out into the bush, I would say I learned more, and it's through nobody's fault. The training that I received was absolutely wonderful, but I learned more in my first month of practical guiding than I did as much as you possibly can, spending as much time as you can out here. And you will learn more from observation say distractedly. The reason I say that distractedly is I can see a very rarely seen birdies. Now, is it going to be can't hear that bit of view. It's a grey-headed bush shrike. We hear them, we don't often see them. Come on, birdie. Oh, we're going to struggle here. No, it just flew down into the drainage line. And there are some skills out in the bush, to finish off with Kathy's question. Things like splitting your attention into what you're hearing and what you're seeing and what you're smelling, having that sort of overall inclusive experience. That cannot be taught, and that really only comes with time. Learning to walk through the bush with using your peripheral vision rather than looking down at your feet, because looking down at your feet is actually incredibly dangerous. You need to be looking up ahead of you and in the distance. Learning to drive and being able to scout for tracks ahead so that you can also turn your head and look to the side of you. That's all stuff that just comes with practice. And it also, of course, gets to the point where driving is second nature as well. The 4x4 driving that we do in the Sabi Sands on Duma is actually relatively easy. You know, it's comparatively flat, not all that rocky, and the roads are nice and well maintained. Because that's not always the case. When you spend a lot of time, it needs to get to the point where moving from first to second gear, or when you need to move from third down to second, needs to be completely instinctive, so that you can start focusing on that aspect of it and continue on with the other more important aspects of the job. Most importantly, all of the good guides that I have met every guide that I've met that I would consider to be one of the best in the industry, every single one of them has one unifying factor in common, and that is a passion and a love and a fierce curiosity and interest in what they're doing. And if they have that, it doesn't matter where they come from, what background they have, or possibly even what level of experience they have. It's what brings them together as some of the best guides in the world. And really top of that list, or one of the top people on that list, has got to be Mr. Stefan Winterboer, who apparently is back up and running. You'll be thrilled to hear, so I can continue my search for the kudu, and you can have Steph with you for a while.
Right. So myself and VM, after having a little bit of a traumatic walk in terms of some technical gremlins that crept into the system, have hightailed it back to the DRC and are in Rusty right now, and that's where you've caught us. Now, on Jamie's tracking topic, we've got something very interesting. There's a track that emanated from the bush on my right. I'm going to show you now, or VM will pan over there and he'll show you this bush. And as you see right here, wait, there we go. Here we've got a tortoise that has come out, tracked, he's walked up to the edge. There he goes, there he goes, there he goes. Come across here. Obviously gets a little bit iffy. There you can see it again. Comes across there. There you can see it again. There he comes up onto the open area, and there's the tortoise. So a little hinged tortoise, some tracking sequences as it's gone. Isn't that awesome? Tracking that tortoise.
Oh, it's been a bit of a rush. Excuse me if I seem a bit distracted and trying to get my bearings. It's one thing doing a guided experience or doing a presenting on a vehicle and trying to get your mind right and going from a car basically, or from foot basically into a car. So it might take me a bit of time to reset myself, but we'll eventually get there, not to worry. Now, as far as I know, Jamie's been trying to follow up on those male lions that we heard this morning, and it seems like both of them are just outside of our traverse area. Now, it's very common to have a traverse area in every single part of Africa that I've ever visited. There's always a boundary, and there always seems to be something on the other side of the boundary, and we always forget that, you know, as often as what there are things on a boundary and on one side of a boundary, they are on our side of the boundary as well. So it seems like this morning we've got some male lions calling from just off of our boundary, and hopefully on a cloudy day like it is today, we get to change that. Now, lions move around a lot on cloudy days, mainly because they don't get as hot. Being 400 and 500 pounds, lions can overheat when it gets too hot and are actually in danger of heat stroke. And you find that lions sleep for up to 16, 17 hours a day on hot summer days. And that's all in an effort just to maintain a constant body temperature and maintain that energy that they need to hunt the way that they do. These explosive bursts of power, which pick up core body temperature very, very quickly. Now let's go down. We're now driving on the main road out towards Gowrie Gate, and I want to go and have a look at Sydney's dam and go and see what has been happening around that water. We've sort of concentrated our efforts in the south of the reserve this morning with no one really going north, and I'm not hearing any reports over the radio of anyone that's gone north either. And it's usually on days like today that some oddball happens to come across a boundary that no one's expecting it to come. We haven't had a leopard sighting here in about 24 hours, and literally leopard will traverse in and across areas as big as what Juma is very, very quickly, and you may find that there are 2 or 3, even 4 leopard sightings that we haven't even heard anything about. Tracks that we find crossing back across our boundaries after having been multiple days here. Now, what has been a source of some debate over the last couple of days, or weeks in actual fact, has been when the marulas are going to be ripe. Now, although marula's season sort of spans 2 or 3 months, it's not something that just happens overnight. It definitely allows us... I just noticed something at the base of the tree. It allows us some speculation as to when your favorite marula tree comes into flower. And what I mean by favorite is that each marula tree has a different flavor, slightly different flavor seed or a fruit to what any other tree does. And everyone's taste buds are different. Some presenters or some guides quite enjoy a more tart taste, a soury taste. Others enjoy a sweeter taste. Now, I'm more for the soury taste of the marula. And so as you're driving through the bush, you'll collect different marulas from different trees, and they will almost every year come into fruit at around about the same time. And what's interesting is elephant also have favorite marula trees. Elephant will absolutely travel quite large distances when they know that their favorite marula tree is coming into fruit and jealously guard it. They will stand around that tree and pick up the majority of the fruit that falls first. And it's actually quite interesting to watch them do that. And then you don't understand how they know that that tree is coming, or how they remember that that tree is coming, until you figure out, until you remind yourself that if I'm able to judge that a tree is coming into fruit on a particular week, then why is it unfeasible that elephant do the same thing? There we go, we've got an elephant talking about that. We've got an elephant standing in the bush right here. It's going to be easy to get to. What I will show you though is his bottom. There we go. That is an elephant's bottom. Looks like a male elephant. not a very big one. I'm probably expecting him to be at the tail end of a herd. He looks like one of these adolescents that hang around at the back of the herds, always within association of mommy, but never quite in sight. Very similar to how a teenager would be in a shopping center on a Sunday's shopping trip. They must be loving the cloudy weather we've been having the last 48 hours or so. Let's be honest with you, it hasn't really precipitated the rain that we've been wanting and needing and wishing and hoping for. There's 1 or 2 more days of rain forecast before the sun comes out again for a couple of days, and then we can look forward to another gradual increase in temperature. Look how tatty his ears are looking. Now, that could be anything. It's boisterous play. It's also the type of bush that they live in. Elephant will even bite one another's ears and tails during fighting. So it all depends on how he grew up. You can't judge an elephant's age just by looking at his ears. There are many factors that can influence the condition of an elephant's ears. You're judging it by his size, his general appearance, the length of his tusks, the shape of his skull, how much bone is deposited on his skull. All of those factors I'm taking into account when I'm deciding how old he is. And although his ears are looking a bit tatty, he's definitely not a very big elephant. He doesn't have a lot of calcification on his skull. He's got nice tusks, but not exceptionally big tusks. And I would say, and his tail's in very good condition. I would say that he's probably in the region of about 17 to 20 years old. That's what I would guess him to be. Although I am by no means an expert, that's for sure. How you'd actually have a look, scientifically, you'd actually have to dart him, and you'd have to open up his mouth and see which set of molar he is on. The molars in elephant come out at intervals. They are molars that don't come like our teeth do from the top, so close to our nose, inside our jawbone, down and up. The molars of an elephant come from the back of their jaw forward, with the oldest molar, or the molar that's been in the mouth the longest, closest to the tusks. They have just 2 molars in their mouth at any one time, 2 in the top, 2 in the bottom, with a set coming in or slotting in from the back and compressing that old tooth against the tusk. And very big molars. You can imagine if you've only got 1 tooth on each side, the molars are about as big as a double fist. So if you had to put your fists together, knuckles to knuckles, you will see that the surface area from the top, if you had to stare now down at your knuckles, that's about as big as an elephant's molar is. It's an enormous tooth. All right, now, because we've been on bushwalk and because we've been rushing to get the camera up so that we can give Jamie a bit of a break, we have a little bit of a battery problem on our bushwalk camera. So if the picture does go black, excuse us, it's not another technical error, it's just the battery on the camera that's reaching the end of its charge, and we're going to change it. So we'll just see. Now we'll carry on going for as long as we can, and we'll probably be linking over to Jamie as soon as she's ready, but we'll carry on going, having a look at this lovely young male elephant busy stuffing that acacia into his face. Acacia is obviously one of the favorite foods of the elephant out here. They've got a very Catholic diet. They eat almost anything. In actual fact, they eat the most diverse plants of anyone, barring white rhino and then kudu behind them. But on that note, we're quickly going to swap through to Jamie. We're going to change the battery, and then we'll catch up with you in a little bit.
To show you a slightly bedraggled looking magpie shrike, which I'm sure is reveling in the rain, much like our woodlands kingfishers were. Oh, hey, he actually turned in response to that. Beautiful birds. You can see why they're called magpies. Oh. Used to be called a long-tailed shrike because of the long tail. A bird that we see fairly commonly, but always for new viewers, we encourage you to start keeping a bird list to build up a list of all of the wonderfully magical feathered friends that we see out here. I'm still looking for the kudu. Basically what I'm doing, I'm adopting a technique that I'm not sure how effective it's going to be. We've tracked kudu herds over days, but I'm sort of working grid patterns around the drainage lines. I figure that will give us our best chance from where we last saw them and the positions that they were moving to, or where they looked like they were moving to. I think there's a very good chance that they're somewhere around the Mawati drainage line. So I'm traveling along Central, which cuts straight through the middle. Let's see if they are somewhere around here. And I've noticed, just from observation with behavior of kudu, they're spending a lot of time around the vegetation, around the drainage lines. They usually do, but in the proper summer months when there's actual rainfall, they spread far further afield, and you can easily encounter one in vegetation like this. But recently they've been spending more and more time around the drainage line systems. I did mention that yesterday in terms of the level of nutrition. Just wanted to give you a little bit of an update as to my current progress around my kudu search, but Steph is back up, so let's head over to him for now.
Well, we got the battery changed and you're back with us again, and in the interim the elephant decided that because we weren't giving him enough attention, he'd walk into the thickest bush that we have here at Djuma, so we've decided to move on. And we are en route to Sydney's dam so that we can go and see what has been crossing in and out over there. It's a very popular place for animals to cross over at that point, and I think it's because there's a lot happening right there. There's 2 or 3 properties along a fence line there. You've got Simbambili and you've got the Manyeleti. We've also got the Sabi Sands fence that comes in there, and all these fences help to channel game, and at Sydney's dam everything opens again. And I think what happens there is you got this net effect of a bunch of channels that all meet in the same place, and so it's quite a good place to go and check for tracks and look for updates on bizarre mornings like this. On the elephants, Gail has asked, how does the worn molar of an elephant leave the mouth? And basically, Gail, it gets compressed. The molar coming in compresses the molar against the tusk, and it'll break up into pieces and fall out of the mouth. So it doesn't come out like our tooth does, it gets loose and then it falls out. It does really, but it's more a compression and then it falls out. The tooth is designed to break up into almost like root sockets, where the root fits into the socket. It'll start to crumble on those places, and then it'll fall out of the mouth, and the next molar will literally just be ready to slot straight in. Absolutely beautiful morning, to be quite honest. Right early this morning, myself and VM met you at the violet-backed starling's nest that we found yesterday during drive. And although the male and female were flitting around us, I think we were a little bit too close. We were sitting a little bit in the open, a little bit too close. It's amazing. Yesterday with the vehicle, this big Land Rover, it didn't have any effect on them. This morning, the female with a morsel in her mouth didn't want to come close to the nest. And you know, with birds, it happens this way. They will eventually calm down with us and allow us to view them sort of without restriction, basically. But for now, I think we pushed it a little bit too much, so we left, and they went back to feeding their babies as soon as we created some distance. But back onto why I mentioned that, is that the dawn chorus of birds this morning has sort of lasted much longer than what it normally lasts. And the bush is just filled with bird noises. We've got black-crowned chagras, three-streaked chagras. We've got a bunch of, that we heard just now, hornbills. We've got grey go-away birds, chin-spot batises, a couple of birds, different birds. And as we were sitting at that elephant that we've just viewed, I could hear in the distance and in the bush around me. Lots of elephant tracks on the road. I must say thank you, Ria. You've made a comment on Twitter saying that presenters are like marula trees, and I can only imagine that you're referring to my comment on each tree having its own particular flavor, and how different people like different flavors, and how different viewers will enjoy different styles of presenting. And that's absolutely the case, Ria. It's actually, for me, what makes presenting teams and guiding teams so special is that you have got so many different personalities, and you've got so many different flavors that it really can fit almost every taste and need. When I'm reflecting quite nicely on our presenting team at the moment, between Jamie and Brent and Scott and James, and how different they each are and how special they each are. And yeah, you've hit a nice comment, lovely comment this time of the morning. Thank you. As I'm driving, I'm scanning underneath the bushes. Geckos asked something about a sighting we just had a little bit earlier on the tortoise that we saw. And what is the difference between a tortoise and turtle? I know that you're probably asking me the question out of America, out of North America somewhere, where you refer to turtles and tortoises as turtles. And I suppose if you were to further define it, this would be a land-based turtle. In South Africa, turtles are referred to marine reptiles. Turtles they live in the surf, the loggerhead turtle and the hawksbill turtle. We call land-based turtles tortoises here, and so when I refer to a tortoise, it's a land-based turtle, and when we refer to turtles in South Africa or on Game Drive, it would be referring to the marine flipped variety of tortoise that live in the sea. Now there's a snakeskin in the branch over there. It just caught my eye as we're scanning through the bush from left to right. We're also looking for things that just catch our eye. And have a look at that. That was something that caught my eye from quite a distance away. It's a snake skin. What's happened is last night, and that is a buffalo thorn tree. It has quite viciously hooked thorns. Last night, a snake, which was in the process of shedding its skin, came into the tree, hooked its skin that was starting to peel off of it onto one of the thorns, and then basically just reversed out of its skin, turning its skin inside out, very similar to how you take a sock off of your foot. And would be a shiny, fresh snake this morning. Now, it takes a few days for a snake to shed its skin. It doesn't happen overnight. And during this time, between the old skin and the new skin forms this layer of oil. It's like a secretion, which basically pops the old skin off, but also creates a film over the eyes. And what will happen is that snake is quite vulnerable during this time, because this milky fluid goes over the scale that goes over the snake's eye and fills it with an opaqueness, which makes it the snake gets very vulnerable. It obviously can't see, it can't see predators, can't hide very well, and it can make dangerous snakes even more dangerous. So you don't want to go near snakes that have that opaque look to their eyes. They're more prone to biting at that particular stage. And for those of us who have kept snakes as little boys, as pets, we always get bitten around about the time our snakes are shedding. And That was one. Now that's quite nice to see. The snake skin won't be used for much. It doesn't have any nutritional value, but you do find birds using snake skins in the construction of their nests. They're quite tough and they're quite pliable even when they are relatively old. I've seen lots of different species of birds carrying around snake skins from one place to another to go and include in their nesting material. Quite an interesting block of bush this between where we were and Sydney's Dam. There's lots of thick bush and quite often owls like to frequent these trees. I'm keeping my eyes peeled for them. Asked a pretty bizarre question, but quite relevant for this time of the year. So good morning to you, Phil. You've asked, do I ever worry about anthrax in the bush? And is it a cause for concern? And Phil, absolutely, I do worry about anthrax in the bush, in particular during the dry periods. And the reason for this is that the anthrax spore is very dense, and quite often it sinks to the bottom of pans and dams. And obviously it gets concentrated as it dries up. And what happens there is that the spores get concentrated as the animals go down and start to churn up the mud, and elephants go and kick up the mud. The spores come out of their suspension in the mud, and animals then ingest that and become particularly susceptible to anthrax. Now you have anthrax outbreaks. We haven't had one this year, so I'm not too concerned this year. But in previous years, I think the last time I was privy to an anthrax outbreak was probably in 2007, where we were finding dead impala every couple of 100 meters down a road. And what happens there is vultures come in, open up the carcasses, and the anthrax spores are in their belly contents, their rumen. In the feeding frenzy, the vultures will get covered in the anthrax spores. They themselves are not susceptible to anthrax. They are vectors for the disease. They don't get affected by it. Then the vultures will go and bath in a pan and wash those spores off. And that's the cycle of how anthrax works. Now, if you come into contact with those spores, if you go rooting around in the tummy contents, or you happen to be in an area where the anthrax spores have been dried out in that tummy contents and a gust of wind blows it in your face, you can absolutely get it here. But it's not something it's not as scary for me as malaria or being bitten in the face by a lion is. So although it's a concern, it's definitely not something that I fret myself too badly about. But it is an interesting topic to talk about because we're in the middle of a drought, and absolutely it's something that we need to take into consideration when we're finding a carcass lying around, or when we start to find some carcasses lying around. Luckily for us, the veterinary department for the Sabi Sands, the consultants, and also in the Kruger National Park is some of the best in the world, and they really get on top of outbreaks like this really, really quickly. And, we have access to some of the best scientific minds in the world right here, right on our doorstep, so not too much of a story. Now, we've come out of the thick bush around Sydney's Dam, and although the signal might get a little bit jumpy over here, it's definitely well worth an inspection. Now, sometimes the signal's bad and sometimes it's good, so don't get too concerned if it gets a bit jumpy over the next couple of seconds. We will be out of it relatively quickly. And what I'm looking for is tracks here, tracks of lion in particular. This is a fairly common area for tracks of lion. I'll be looking at the ground in areas of soft sand. So just like we have in front of us here, we have an area that will hold tracks quite well and make it easier for me to see from a vehicle. Then I'll be scanning the bush over rougher sections, scanning the bush around me, and then looking, there's the area there, having another look, moving my wheels over to the one side and peering over the side of the car in an effort to try and spot some tracks of something that has passed. At the moment I just see hyena tracks, which is a fairly common occurrence. asked, or made a comment at least, and thank you, David. You said that I'm doing a wonderful job. It's always nice to hear that, so thank you very much. And how long have I been doing this work? David, I've been field guiding now in 2016 or 17th year guiding. So I've been doing it for a fairly long time. Generally speaking, field guides are operational between 2 and 5 years. That's the average that a guide guides for, or not really presenters, but field guides or field guide for is 2 to 5 years. There are an exception that do 5 to 10 years, and very few of us have been doing anything longer than 10 years. Actual fact, we were reminiscing the other day amongst a few of my friends and colleagues that between the 5 of us, we probably know of the 50 guides in the country that have been field guiding for longer than 15 years. So it's a pretty close-knit group. We all share and share alike. We all try and help each other as much as what we can. And it's all testimony to the fact that field guiding in its current form in South Africa is relatively new, although a lot of these reserves have been going for close on 40 years right now. Places like Mala Mala and Londolozi and Sabi Sabi have got guiding teams that stretch back at least for the last 37, 38 years. Most of the reserves and most of the growth that we've seen in the industry has happened only since about 1998, 1999, where we saw this explosion of lodges in South Africa. I'd like to believe that it has something to do with the fact that people were celebrating that South Africa was finally a democracy and finally wanted to come and see how beautiful our country was. And what we had this explosion. And so a lot of field guides, myself included, only saw this as a viable career only from there, from 1998, 1999, around about 2000. But still, it tends to be a young man's job, or a young woman's job. Telltale sign of a plantigrade footprint. I'll see if VM can get it for you. VM, I'm gonna probably go forward over here. You're gonna get it there. See if VM can get it over the... No, not going to be possible. Sorry, the angle is just a bit too great, but it's a hyena's footprint. It caught my eye because it looked very leopard-like when I went past it, and as I reversed past it again, just saw that it was a hyena. Spotted hyena, one of the most common of the large or the super predators out here. Definitely my favorite. And the reason why I enjoy spotted hyena is they're always animated, they're always doing something. Unlike lion, which are mainly just sleeping. Has asked, are big cats susceptible to anthrax? James, that's actually a very good question and something that I don't actually know the answer to right now. The last time I dealt with any anthrax questions in depth was probably around about 2007, 2008, where I did know a little bit more than I know now. I can't actually answer that question, James. You know, when I get to a point like this, it's always good to refresh my mind, and obviously I like to push things at our audience and to our other viewers. For those of you who do have access to information resources, you're welcome to please share the answer to that question with us. You can use the Twitter handle hashtag #SafariLive, or you can email questions@wildearth.tv, and FC will give me the answer and I will share it with everybody out there. So please feel free to help us out. That way we learn from one another. It's a good question, and I'm sure I'll be able to answer it for you in a couple of minutes there, James. Now we're going to be going into a bit of a signal poor area. I'm going to be picking up the speed a little bit. Just so that we can, if we do go into a shaky place, we can go through it quite quick. So I think our signal looks like it's stable and holding, so I can try and attempt to answer this question from Monkey Man in Australia. And although I find your Twitter handle to be quite humorous, Monkey Man, and I'd love to know why you decided on that as a Twitter handle. I'm going to try and answer your question. You said that you know what leopard and lion calls sound like. What does a cheetah call sound like? Now, cheetah are unlike lion and leopard in that their voice boxes are not designed for roaring. They've got a fused voice box, or their larynx is attached, and what that creates is the ability for the cheetah to actually have quite a high-pitched, squeaky noise, almost bird-like in its sound. It's something unlike anything you've ever heard, and quite difficult to actually describe. And the best piece of advice that I could probably give you is to go and see if you can find any footage on YouTube about cheetahs calling or cheetahs roaring, and you'll see that it's this high-pitched chirping noise that they make. They can purr, funnily enough. They can purr. They can also make a growl, but it's got nothing like the volume and the tone of a lion and a leopard. There's just something about lion and leopard growls and roars that is unbelievable. Now I'm busy scanning over here. This is exactly, although this isn't the most aesthetically pleasing the reserve at all, it definitely is a very high traffic part of the reserve, and I'm busy having a look over here to see if we can see any sign of lion activity. There's been a lot of roaring around the property at the moment. We've had lions roaring from the south, lions roaring from the south, from the southeast, lions roaring from virtually every corner except this corner. We've got some elephant that have come across here, buffalo. Lots of hyena tracks coming from the dam. Kyle has asked me a question that I really enjoy asking. How many hyena would it take to force a lion off the kill? Kyle, I have a theory that suggests that because lion and hyena are both considered super predators, and in some areas lion are more dominant than hyena, and in other areas hyena are more dominant than lion. My theory, and this is just based purely on observation that I've seen, is that it's got to do with the weight, the total weight of hyena in that area versus the total weight of lion in that area. And I've found where hyena outweigh lions, that lion are subservient or submissive to hyena, and vice versa. Where you have a lot more lion in an area than you have hyena, then hyena are submissive to lion. In this particular area, there are a lot more lion than what there are hyena, and you find quite often lion are able to drive hyena off of kills. Even male lion will be able to stand their ground against a lot of hyena in this particular area. But in some areas that I've visited, in particular in Tanzania, I'm going to use as an example, there you have a lot of hyenas, a lot more than you have lion. And in every single case that I watched lion and hyena activity, I've seen hyena completely dominate lion. In actual fact, I've seen lions scavenge more from hyena in places like Savuti and places like Tanzania between the Masai Mara and the Serengeti than I have seen them catching their own food. That said, areas that have relatively little lion activity in the Sabi Sands, for whatever reason. At the moment, let me give an example. This area has been bombshelled. We call it bombshelled. It's an affectionate term that we use for what happens to a lion population when there's a big pride takeover like we've had over the last couple of months. And we've had all the lions basically disperse. And there's very little lion activity in this area. Well, there's not little. Lions are moving around a lot, and they're moving around in smaller numbers than what we're usually used to. And we're finding these hyena clans are coalescing. They're coming together. And I have seen it in past places I've been lucky enough to work in. I have seen the hyenas start to hunt things as big as buffalo. I once watched 4 hyena kill a buffalo. They're very capable of killing their own food. And where you wouldn't think hyena are able to kill something as large as a buffalo, I can say I've seen it with my own eyes. And they, at that point, for around about 3 or 4 months, hyena were killing everything around that camp I was working in. They killed kudu, they were chasing impala around, they were pulling down giraffe calves, they were killing buffalo, everything that you'd expect to see from lions, hyena were doing. But a fly buzzing around my head, and while you see me frantically trying to rid myself from it, we're going to be crossing over to Jamie. She's got an update for you, and myself and Vim will catch up with you in a little bit.
And we've found not our kudu, but another member of the spiral horned antelope family, this gorgeous Nyala bull, who is playing shy. Now I'm going to have to work on your trust here. I found kudu. Unfortunately, they were exceptionally skittish and they dashed off into really thick vegetation. And as most of you know, we're also implementing a policy of absolutely no off-roading unless absolutely necessary. So they were being as shy as this gentleman was. Do I know that it was the same kudu? No. Do I suspect that it was the kudu from yesterday? Yes, I do. I think it was the same group of them, just judging by the area, but I can't say that for certain. And you'll honestly have to just take my word to it, but I would hope that most of you know me well enough by now to know that I would never lie to you. So we did find the kudu, and they moved off into really thick vegetation. And obviously also with them being heavily pregnant, I was not going to stress them out any further. I think the wind and the rain probably made them feel a little bit uncomfortable. Even this bull has been slightly skittish. When I tried to get a nice clear view of him, he immediately moved off behind this bush. But look at him, he is magnificent. Look at those ivory tips on the top of his horns. It's not true ivory, but it's the description given to the slightly pale part of the keratin sheath that you only see on mature bulls. And the longer that patch or lighter patch on the tips of the horns, the older the bull, the older the male. And he really is a stunning boy in his prime, nibbling away very dexterously between the thorns. Even with the Nyala, you can see how those horns in this particular type of environment or habitat that they live in can see how they might be a disadvantage in terms of getting caught in the vegetation around them. And that is why the females don't have them. These particular riverine vegetation species. Hidden in the greenery. And I'm really hoping that once our sunrise safari is finished, we'll actually have more rain for the thirsty earth to actually soak up, because it's stopped for now. And already the temperature's rising, and it's starting to feel slightly muggy. I'm hoping it's just a brief lull. Our Nyala boy is playing hard to get, or at least hard to see. He's being a little bit camera shy. I still want to see if I can find you one last glimpse of the kudu for the end of our sunrise safari. So I'm going to send you back to Step and continue on my mission.
So back with myself and VM on search of something for you on this quite overcast and lovely day. In actual fact, I mean it's quite cool, and there's a little bit of a breeze blowing. It's blowing some mist into our faces from time to time. There's a little drizzle that's coming through here, and such a contrast to the last couple of days. We have a female kudu. I'm just going to swing over there and show her to you. I find them one of the most beautiful antelope, and since you were just watching a nyala, kudu and nyala are cousins with one another. They're part of the tragelaphine antelope. Tragelaphine antelope are these antelope that all look like kudu and nyala. They have got quite stout bodies. They can be fairly large or medium to large size. They've got stripes on them. Quite often the males have got some horns. This is a female. She's got no horns, but you can see those stripes on her side. The black feet that they've got with the yellow socks. And she's a browser, and that's actually another trait of the tragelaphines, is they're browsers. Now I hear that Jamie has been tracking a female kudu that is about to give birth. This is not that female. She's definitely not that pregnant. Most of these kudus are pregnant, unlike the impala who drop their lambs at the beginning of the season because they like to eat the grass that flushes with the first rains. Kudu give birth after Christmas, and they do that because it takes a while for the leaf load to increase. January, February is when the bush should be at its greenest, and that's when these little baby kudu are getting the most from their mother's milk. It's very expensive from a metabolic point of view to produce milk, and so the kudu first pick up condition after the dry time. Generally speaking, it's not the case this year. We'll generally wait until the first serious rain starts in December, and then they will pick up condition November, December, January, and then have their babies end of Jan, beginning of February. So we can expect a flush of baby kudus to happen, the same as what we had with the impala. It's not quite the same. They don't flood the market, so to say, but all of a sudden you do find a bunch of little kudu calves running around. They're very cute, must be honest. And let's carry on looking for further sign. Something interesting, more interesting to show you. I'm hoping as the sun rises higher in the sky behind the clouds that it's not going to burn these clouds off. Generally the case here is that if it rains before 7, so the saying goes, sunshine by 11. So let's hope it's not the case today. Alyssa has given us an answer to our anthrax question. I just want to say thank you, Alyssa. So thank you for helping us teach one another. So Alyssa has confirmed that lions can absolutely get anthrax, but what's very interesting in Alyssa's comment is that it's not always fatal. That lions will sometimes die from septicemia or from a protracted sort of illness, a long-time illness, but if they can survive that, they become immune to anthrax. Can you believe that? I suppose it makes a little bit of sense. Predators and scavengers, and lions are definitely both, scavenger and predator, are vectors for the anthrax spore, and without a vector, the spore wouldn't be able to be proliferated, wouldn't be able to spread. And so it's not in the best interest of the organism, of the anthrax spore, to actually kill everything that it gets into contact with. So I suppose, Alyssa, to a certain degree it makes sense. Now it's jogging my memory back into function, and I just want to say thank you very much for sharing that with us. And I hope, I can't really remember whose question it was from. I'm sure it was from James, if my memory serves me correctly, and I hope that, James, you're still watching and that answered the question for you. So yes, absolutely, lions can get anthrax. It's not always terminal, and if they can survive it, they're actually immune to it. So, whoa, mind blown. Right, now we are here on Cheetah Plains. It was Russell in Australia that actually asked that question. So Russell, I hope that answered your question. We've got a bird running off into cover as we speak. One for the bird lists, even though Viam was quick enough to catch it. There we go. That is a busted. It's not just busted in that we caught it, it's a busted bird. And that is the black-bellied bustard. So for your bird lists of today that you can tick off, the black-bellied bustard. And that can be with the violet-back starling that we had earlier this morning. Billy Joe in Florida has asked if we've got a new off-road policy because of the drought. And it's funny that you say that. Yes, we do actually have one. We are going to try and limit our off-road driving to what we call just the high-profile animals, which is the big five: cheetah, wild dog, and hyena. And the reason for this is quite simply in that when you've got limited ground cover that's really battling to recover from a protracted dry spell like we have at the moment, is that if you just drive off-road as you please, you end up with these unsightly tracks into the bush everywhere. And because there's only really so many places you can drive through the bush with one of these cars, quite often you get these tracks turning into two tracks which eventually turn into roads that are not part of the traditional road network here, and as such are not maintained as well. And then when the rains do come, you've got these tracks through the bush that are compacted in areas where there shouldn't be tracks, and it quite often results in quite bad soil erosion. So for those reasons, when it's dry like this, we try and limit our off-road driving to just the high-profile animals, which is the big five: lion, leopard, elephant, and buffalo, because we don't go off-road for rhino here. And then we also do it for hyena, just 2 hyena dens. We don't follow hyena off-road. Hyena dens, wild dog, and cheetah. That's what we'll be going off-road for. We won't be going off-road for general game or for birds and bird nests that much. And I'm sure you will actually see it if you're a long-term viewer of the show. are, speaking of cheetah, are there any around here? Now, Jim, yesterday and today I've heard reports on the radio that there are cheetah. There are cheetah in the area, absolutely. They're just not on the spot where I can drive right now. That doesn't mean too much. Cheetah move very big distances and in very short spaces of time. And it could very well be that we have cheetah come onto the property at any moment. I heard last night on the radio, I've heard today on the radio as well that there are cheetah in the area, so just not where we can take you right now, but as I said, they move quite massive distances. It's completely feasible for us to think that we get cheetah back in front of you on camera at any day. It's nice to know, actually. It's nice to know they're cheetah here. Now, cheetah are not only restricted to big open grassy plains where they can run full speed, but they're quite effective hunters all over the bush. In actual fact, their success rate is almost 3 times that of a leopard, believe it or not, in terms of hunting success. And that would be how many successful hunts are generated per effort. And that cheetah and wild dog share around about a 95% success rate. How's that? And they're some of the rarest animals out here, and they have such a phenomenal success rate. Whereas lion and leopard share around about a 22 to 25% success rate, which is virtually nothing. So only 2 out of every 10 hunts for a lion or a leopard are successful, whereas 9 out of every 10 hunts for a cheetah is successful. The reason why there are not that many cheetah and not that many wild dog is quite simply environmental pressure, and they are being outcompeted by the more adaptable large cats. Only really leopard. Lion are completely restricted to game reserves and wilderness areas only in Africa at the moment. Lion numbers are dwindling very rapidly, probably faster than what wild dog and cheetah numbers are dwindling, if you had to look at it from a percentage point of view, and are absolutely in need of some attention at the moment. There's a very real possibility that our great-grandchildren and grandchildren will not see lion, leopard, or cheetah and wild dog, or not leopard, but cheetah, wild dog, and lion in wilderness areas by the time that they start to visit our national parks in years to come. Not without concerted effort. It felt like this drive has gone by for me like an absolute blink of an eye. We started off this morning on foot. We had a few technical gremlins, myself and Viam, then hightailed it through the rain to get to Rusty, and then we've had quite a nice drive so far. A bit of elephant and a bit of general game and a good chat. I must say thank you from Viam and myself. We're going to be handing over to Jamie, and Jamie's going to close the show for us. We'll catch you on the Sunset Safari. See you a bit later.
After a promising start, the lions pulled a sneaky maneuver on us and never quite came those extra couple of 100 meters to pop out north on the Djuma boundary. At some point soon though, there is hope. I'm sure that they are going to be coming through. But at least the promised rain did arrive, and we did actually get to see it. We got to experience as well. Big thank you to Tebs as well as to all of you guys. We'll catch you for the Sunset Safari. Cheers for now.